I'm a real boy, Reece. I'm a real boy. I can record some real hot news. Yeah, let's get into it. Let's talk about the hot news as soon as Reece stops crumbling his gosh dang bread paper. Thanks. Oh, friends, hope you're doing well. My goodness, we just got the biggest leak of all time, and this time it's not coming from Lenovo, who, in case you don't remember, outed a few things about NVIDIA stuff last year. They just couldn't help talking at conferences. Well, this time it's Sapphire's turn to spill the AMD beans. In an interview with a publication, the Sapphire representative, who probably wasn't authorized to say any of this, so we could probably take this with a grain of salt about whether or not they know what they're talking about, or if they're just speculating about things that they've heard inside their company. Let's go ahead and walk through the things that they're talking about when it comes to Navi. So the first and foremost thing is that it's going to be launching on July 7th, which is the date that everybody's been rumored, which puts it a little fishy for me that the rumors line up so neatly. It always bothers me when that happens, but at the same time, it could just be that that's how it gonna be. It really do be like that. So supposedly with Navi, AMD is targeting the meat of the serious gamer market at two different price points, a $400 price point with a Pro product and a $500 price point with an XT product, and they're supposed to compete with the RTX 2070 and the RTX 2060. Apparently, the Sapphire representative said that it's going to be stronger than the 2070, but that doesn't necessarily indicate a whole lot about what's going on there. So that leaves a lot of interesting questions that are out on the floor. This $500 Navi XT, which is supposed to compete with an RTX 2070, that's how much an RTX 2070 costs. So you're not really getting anything beneficial out of the Navi card that you want to get out of the NVIDIA one. I know some of them sell for $600, but you can find pretty decent ones for $500. But that $400 one really confuses me because it would have to be better than a 2060. It would just have to be better. But the 2070 is not that much better than a 2060. So where's this like middle ground that they're finding where it's better than a 2060, but not quite a 2070, but it's worth the extra $50 that the 2060 isn't? I'm not sure that exists. This is really confusing. This leak actually seems pretty funny to me, a little fishy, because this seems like a terrible entry into the market. This almost seems like Vega Reduxels. Happening again. This is the Vega 56, 64. They both came in at price points where it was just like, do you really want to though? But at this point, at the very least, NVIDIA has technology in their cards that AMD apparently doesn't, because the Sapphire representative also said that it would not have specialized ray tracing hardware on the silicon, but that would come in next year's new architecture. So that's a pretty interesting leak, that Sapphire is saying that AMD is gonna launch another GPU architecture next year, but then it also confirms that if you're paying $500 for a 2070 competitor, but you don't get the ray tracing or tensor cores, you're getting a worse product thereby. Obviously, we'll have to see where benchmarks come out. And I do know that not everybody cares about ray tracing. Ray tracing isn't the best implemented technology at this time. However, the fact that there are tensor cores on the RTX cards and those can be used for professional level applications, it could also make the RTX cards a better buy if you're looking to do professional level stuff, not just gaming, because tensor cores are actually highly versatile in their matrix computing. So it's a weird entry into the market. Sapphire also said that they're potentially going to be bringing out a water cooling version of Navi, whereas with Radeon 7, they're not going to be making a custom cooling version of it whatsoever, which is a pretty big bit of news considering that Sapphire is one of the main partners for AMD when it comes to AIB cards. The fact that we're just going to have reference edition shows either how little faith AIB partners have in Radeon 7 or how little that AMD is actually pushing to sell these, because they're actually costing way too much to produce with the 16 gigabytes of HBM2. Either way, Navi not shaping up to be the NVIDIA Titan Slayer that we were expecting. It does a worse job of taking the throne than. But in case you want more spoilers, apparently X570's platform diagram has been revealed. You can see that it has the PCI Express 4.0 lanes on the chipset itself, which could be one of the reasons why it needs some active cooling, because it's introducing that. Has several good things about it. You can check that out at the link in the video description for you to check out the X570 platform. But on top of that, we've gotten leaks of new X570 motherboards. The ASRock X570 Tai Chi motherboard appeared on the Linus Tech Tips forum, as well as MSI's MPG Gaming Plus and Gaming Pro Carbon. You can see that they're going super all out with those fans on the chipsets. It just appears that that's how it's going to be from now on with the X570 boards. You just have VRMs or fans on the chipsets instead of VRMs, because who needs those cooled? Nobody needs good VRMs. Screw those. And then on top of that, there's been another AMD leak of Zen 2 7nm 32 and 64 core CPUs. It's expected that these are EPYC leaks, not necessarily Threadripper leaks, but it does seem to have some good indication that Zen 2 is fully marching along to come out for release in Q3. It's a little weird because like they had a base clock speed of 1.4 gigahertz and then a turbo of 2.2, which is kind of low, especially when you compare it to last generation. But again, these are just engineering samples and there's a lot of time to still improve things before they go south to King's Landing. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. And then AMD rejoins the Fortune 500 list after being gone for 4 years. Excuse me, they were kicked out of the Fortune 500 back in 2015 because, I mean, they were just bad in 2015. All they had was like the remnants of a mining boom and bulldozer. So that's fantastic. Now they're back, okay? They came back, they're good. Back on the Fortune 500, it's delicious. You know what else is delicious though? PlayStation 5, there's a leaked video showing a comparison that Sony is putting out there. We obviously heard this as a behind the scenes demo that they were doing, but that we finally have evidence of it, of loading times in Spider-Man when using the current PlayStation 4 Pro hardware, which only has a 5400 RPM drive and their next generation SSD. And I can tell you, as somebody who put a regular, SATA SSD into his PS4 Pro, this is still seriously impressive because the loading time of a scene in Spider-Man goes from 8 seconds to less than a second, to 0.8 seconds. That is some serious improvement, even if it's only a 5400 RPM drive. They also showed off the fact that you can traverse the city really quickly without having to stop for loading times as you would on a regular hard drive, which would unveil a lot of possibilities in the next generation of console, especially when it comes to game design. Things like God of War's no cutscene attempt at making sure that the game is a seamless experience could now be a reality for all games and not require like sacrifices on part of the game developer to make that a reality. And yes, I'm aware that the world tree when it's spinning around is technically, or when you're in that in-between space, that is a loading screen. It's just not actually there, but that's a design choice. They wanted to make it feel like there was no loading times. Now that they won't have to actually do that at all, you'll just be able to go. Bippity boppity, fast travel is actually fast. Who would have thunk? But you know who else is thinking? People who have Pixel 3As. Mine's coming in later today, and now I'm sad because apparently they're randomly shutting down. But the tagline that gets me the most on this is, the issue requires a hard reset to solve. No duh, it shut itself down, my friends. Of course it needs a hard reset, but apparently this could just be a software issue. It doesn't seem like it's limited to a carrier. It's just Google makes bad phones. It makes me sad. And there's also a report of like the USB Type-C and the speakers on the bottom are like off kilter a little bit. It's because they contracted HTC to make these things. We all know HTC can't make good phones. But you know who can make good movies? Or at least think they can? Sony. Because Sony Studio is planning on turning PlayStation games into movies and TV shows, probably as a bid to get in on that streaming money. Obviously, they still have PlayStation View? Or is it PlayStation TV? What the heck is their TV streaming service? PlayStation has one. Like if you go on your PlayStation 4, you can, like there's a TV tuner option that's like YouTube TV. Anyways, neither here nor there. They're getting in on it. If the Ratchet and Clank movie is any indication, it's gonna be all right. The Ratchet and Clank movie wasn't terrible. It was a decent attempt at bringing a video game. It was probably one of the better animated video game movies. So I'm okay with this. And then talking more about PlayStation stuff, apparently, remember when we talked about Sony and Microsoft teaming up when it comes to cloud-based gaming, using Microsoft's Azure hardware and PlayStation's PS Now stuff? Well, apparently, Sony forgot to tell the people at PlayStation about this. So it came as a shock to the PlayStation team that they were all of a sudden, hey, you have to work with your longest standing rivals in the space. Go enjoy using their hardware, my friends, okay? Because we can't do it. They're better than us. So just submit right now. Whatever you think you're working on that's better than that stuff. No. You're working with them now. Cool. Good job, Sony. Well, I'm like, this is essentially the same thing, sort of, kinda, Anyways, Trump firing people over tweets and them finding out as they read the tweet. That's amazing. And then, you know what else is amazing? The dystopian future that we're about to live in, because, my friends, AI can generate whatever you want. There is a video out on the internet, which video is a strong word. It's a video playing audio.
Friends, I've got something new to tell all of you.
Of Joe Rogan saying things that he's never actually said, because they sampled all of the gosh dang time that Joe Rogan has jabbered his gabber on his top podcast. I like the Joe Rogan podcast. I don't know why I'm saying that. Anyways, he has now been converted into an artificial voice, and it's scarily accurate. He even thinks so himself, and he's glad that this has indicated to the world that we are seriously screwed, and that anything can be said by anybody, and you just never have proof, because not only can you Photoshop, but you can deep fake and do things in their voice. This is fantastic. Love it. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this hot news. Get subscribed to stay up to date on hot news. Check out our displays at display.com/UFD Tech Official. Hot news stuff. That's in hot news. I'm Brett. Bye.